From a tragic Oscar-nominated star dying during production to NBC's biggest scheduling disaster in history, Don Adams's forgotten follow-up to Get Smart hides bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets that make Maxwell Smart's adventures look tame. Discover why this cop comedy was doomed before it ever aired, what controversial original premise got scrapped, and the shocking family connection that brought Get Smart's bumbling sidekick along for the ride. Fact 1. It was originally Lethal Weapon before Lethal Weapon. When Don Adams pitched The Partners to NBC in 1971, he had something far more ambitious in mind than another comedy about bumbling cops. Adams wanted to create a groundbreaking police drama that would tackle the racial tensions and social issues tearing through America at the time, centered on a white detective and a black detective forced to work together despite their differences. This was 16 years before Mel Gibson and Danny Glover would bring a similar concept to the big screen in Lethal Weapon. Adams envisioned a show where the partnership between the two detectives would mirror the real struggles happening in police departments across the country, with storylines addressing racism, prejudice, and the challenges of integration in law enforcement. He saw it as a chance to make television that mattered, something with weight and social relevance. But NBC and Universal Studios had other ideas. The network executives looked at the success of Get Smart and saw dollar signs in keeping Adams in his comedic comfort zone. They agreed to make The Partners, but only if Adams stripped away all the controversial social commentary and transformed it into safe, old-fashioned comedy about two not-too-bright cops solving crimes by accident. The dramatic interracial buddy cop show became just another light-hearted sitcom where the partnership's racial dynamic was merely window dressing rather than the whole point. Adams reluctantly agreed, though he would later express disappointment that he never got the chance to do the serious, socially conscious show he originally envisioned. Fact 2. The star replacement that changed everything before. Rupert Cross became Detective George Robinson. The role was originally offered to Godfrey Cambridge, a well-known comedian and actor who had built a reputation for tackling racial issues head-on in his stand-up routines and film work. Cambridge was a strong, outspoken performer who wasn't afraid to push boundaries and challenge audiences, which made him perfect for Don Adams's original vision of a socially conscious cop show. But when NBC and the network executives decided to strip away the show's controversial themes and turn it into a light-hearted comedy, Cambridge suddenly didn't fit the new direction. The official explanation from Adams and the network was that there was a lack of chemistry between Cambridge and Adams during early production work, but many people involved with the show suspected. The real reason was different. Cambridge's entire career was built on confronting racial issues directly, and asking him to suddenly ignore those themes and play it safe in a watered-down comedy probably didn't sit well with either party. Rupert Cross, who took over the role, was a talented and respected actor, fresh off an Academy Award nomination, but he had a much gentler, more easygoing comedic style that fit better with the new sanitized version of the show. The chemistry excuse gave everyone a face-saving way out, but the timing of Cambridge's departure, coming right when the show abandoned its serious premise, suggests the change was about much more than how well the two actors worked together on camera. Fact 3. A tragic Oscar nominee's final role. Rupert Cross made history in 1969 when he became the first African-American actor ever nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role in the film The Ravers, starring opposite Steve McQueen. It was a groundbreaking moment that should have launched him into a long and successful Hollywood career, but tragically, The Partners would turn out to be his last major acting job. During the show's single-season run in 1971 and 72, Cross was already battling lung cancer, though most people working on the production didn't know about his illness. He appeared in all 20 episodes of the series, playing Detective George Robinson with a quiet dignity and comedic timing that made him the perfect straight man to Don Adams's antics. After The Partners was canceled in January of 1972, Cross's health rapidly declined, and he was forced to turn down future roles as his condition worsened. He had actually been cast in the film The Last Detail in 1973, but had to withdraw from the project after learning his cancer was terminal. Cross returned to the Caribbean island of Nevis, where he had been raised by his grandparents as a child, and died there on March 5, 1973, at just 45 years old. His wife, Chris Calloway, daughter of legendary jazz musician Cab Calloway, and their infant son survived him, making his early death even more heartbreaking for those who knew him and admired his groundbreaking work. Fact 4. It beat All in the Family. In testing before the partners ever aired a single episode, NBC was absolutely convinced they had a guaranteed hit on their hands based on the show's phenomenal performance with test audiences. The series tested higher than any other NBC show up to that point in the network's history, which created massive buzz and excitement among network executives who saw it as their potential ratings savior for the 1971 fall season. Even more impressive, advertising agencies across the industry were conducting their own research and forecasts for the upcoming television season, and nearly all of them predicted that The Partners would be the breakout hit show of the year, outperforming every other new series debuting that fall. These agencies polled their own focus groups and came back with glowing reports about how audiences responded to Don Adams returning to television in another comedy role, and the combination of his star power with the buddy cop format seemed like an unbeatable formula. Trade publications like Broadcasting Magazine reported that The Partners was coming in first place in multiple industry predictions, with shows like Nichols, O'Hara U.S. Treasury, and Owen Marshall also getting high marks, but none matching the enthusiasm for Adams's new series. The confidence was so high that NBC gave the show a prime Saturday night time slot and invested heavily in promotion, fully expecting The Partners to dominate its competition and run for multiple seasons, making the show's spectacular failure and quick cancellation all the more shocking and embarrassing for everyone involved. Fact 5. CBS's last-minute schedule. Sabotage NBC thought they had a clear path to success when they looked at the competition scheduled against The Partners on Saturday nights at 8 p.m., because CBS had originally planned to air My Three Sons in that time slot, an aging family sitcom that was past its prime and wouldn't pose much of a threat to Don Adams' new show. Network executives at NBC were feeling confident about their chances, knowing that The Partners would likely crush My Three Sons in the ratings and give them a strong foothold on Saturday evenings. But then CBS made a shocking last-minute decision that changed everything and sealed The Partners' fate before it even had a chance to find an audience. Fred Silverman, CBS's newly appointed programming vice president, had screened all the competing networks' new shows and became absolutely convinced that The Partners was going to be the breakout hit everyone was predicting. In what many considered a ruthless competitive move, Silverman pulled My Three Sons from Saturday nights and replaced it with All in the Family, which had debuted earlier that year in January and was already on its way to becoming the highest-rated show on all of television. Nobody could understand why Silverman would make such a drastic schedule change, moving a red-hot hit show just to go up against a new comedy. But the strategy worked perfectly. All in the Family completely dominated The Partners in the ratings from the very first week, and by the third week of the season, All in the Family had climbed to number 2 in the overall ratings and would soon become the number 1 show in America for 5 consecutive years. Fact 6. The show premiered on Get Smart's anniversary. NBC gave The Partners a premiere date that seemed almost too perfect to be a coincidence, scheduling the show to debut on September 18, 1971, which happened to be exactly 6 years to the day after Get Smart first aired on the network back in 1965. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture either, because NBC also placed The Partners in the exact same Saturday night time slot that Get Smart had occupied during its final season on the network before moving to CBS for its last year. The network was clearly trying to recapture the magic that had made Get Smart such a massive hit by putting Don Adams back in the same place and time where audiences had fallen in love with Maxwell Smart, hoping that viewers would tune in out of nostalgia and loyalty to Adams as a performer. It was a calculated attempt to make The Partners feel like a natural successor to Get Smart, giving fans of the spy comedy a new show featuring the same star in a similar bumbling hero role, just trading secret agent gadgets for police badges and trading control headquarters for a police precinct. The timing and placement made it clear that NBC was banking heavily on Adams's proven track record and the goodwill he had built up with audiences over 5 years of playing Agent 86, essentially trying to tell viewers that Saturday nights at 8 p.m. were still Don Adams's time slot, and they should keep watching out of habit, if nothing else. Fact 7. Don Adams played it straight, literally. One of the most puzzling creative decisions behind The Partners was Don Adams's choice to completely abandon the comedic voice and delivery style that had made him a star on Get Smart, instead playing Detective Lenny Crook in a much more subdued and straightforward manner without any of the signature Maxwell Smart mannerisms that audiences loved. Adams had spent years perfecting that clipped, nasal-speaking style borrowed from actor William Powell, along with all the physical comedy and timing that turned Maxwell Smart into one of television's most beloved characters. But he deliberately left all of that behind when he stepped into the role of Lenny Crook. The reason behind this strange choice was that Adams desperately wanted to prove he could do serious, dramatic work, and wasn't just a one-trick pony limited to playing bumbling secret agents. So when NBC forced him to turn The Partners into a comedy instead of the serious drama he originally envisioned, he compromised by agreeing to do the show, but insisting on playing his character straight without relying on his famous comedic voice. Critics and television historians have pointed out that this decision probably doomed the show from the start because Adams' unique vocal delivery was what made his comedy work in the first place, and asking audiences to watch him play essentially the same type of incompetent character without the voice that made it funny was like asking them to eat a hamburger with no meat, leaving everyone confused about why the show wasn't as entertaining as they expected it to be. Fact 8. The real-life cousin who followed Adams everywhere. Robert Carvelis wasn't just another actor who happened to work with Don Adams on multiple shows. He was actually Adams's real-life cousin on his mother's side of the family, and Adams made sure to bring him along whenever he landed a new television project. Carvelis had been a Golden Gloves boxing champion during his time in the United States Marines and later worked as a stockbroker before Adams convinced him to try acting, giving him small uncredited bit parts on Get Smart that eventually grew into the recurring role of Agent Larrabee, the bumbling assistant to the chief who was somehow even more incompetent than Maxwell Smart himself. When Get Smart ended in 1970, Carvelis naturally followed his cousin to The Partners, where he appeared in 7 episodes playing a character named Freddie Butler, who had a bizarre compulsion to confess to crimes he didn't actually commit, driving the detectives absolutely crazy every time he showed up at the police station to take credit for someone else's criminal activities. The character became a running gag throughout the series, with Detective Lenny Crook usually exclaiming something like, "Just what I can't stand right now, Freddie Butler," whenever Carvelis appeared on screen with another false confession. Adams' loyalty to his cousin was so strong that Carvelis would continue to appear alongside him in future projects, including both Get Smart reunion movies made in the 1980s and 90s, proving that family connections in Hollywood could be just as important as talent when it came to landing steady work in the entertainment industry. Fact 9. The ahead of its time opening credits innovation. While almost every television show in the 1970s began with a traditional opening title sequence featuring theme music, cast names, and usually some kind of montage or animation, The Partners took a completely different approach that was decades ahead of its time by eliminating the opening credits altogether. Instead of stopping the action to show viewers who was starring in the show and who created it, The Partners would jump straight into the story and then slowly display the credits throughout the first few minutes of each episode, with names appearing on screen while the actors were already in the middle of scenes and dialogue. This technique allowed the show to grab the audience's attention immediately, without making them sit through a full minute or more of credits before the story even started, which was a radical departure from how every other sitcom on television was doing things at that time. The problem was that this innovative approach was so far ahead of the curve that most viewers in 1971 found it confusing or disorienting, since they were used to the familiar rhythm of watching opening credits that signaled the start of their favorite shows. It wouldn't be until the late 1990s and early 2000s that this style of interspersed credits would become common on television, with prestige dramas and cutting-edge comedies finally catching up to what the partners had experimented with 30 years earlier, proving that sometimes being too innovative can work against a show when audiences aren't ready for that kind of change. Fact 10. The Mission Impossible Connection. The Partners may have been a light-hearted comedy about bumbling detectives, but it had one element that gave it an incredibly sophisticated pedigree that most viewers probably never even noticed, which was its theme music composed by Lalo Schifrin, one of the most respected and talented composers working in television and film at that time. Schifrin was already a legend in the industry for creating the iconic Mission Impossible theme back in 1966, that distinctive tune written in an unusual 5/4 time signature that became one of the most recognizable pieces of television music ever created. By 1971, Schifrin had also composed memorable scores for major Hollywood films like Bullitt, Cool Hand Luke, and Dirty Harry, making him one of the most in-demand composers in the business. Having someone of Schifrin's caliber write music for a sitcom about incompetent cops was like hiring a master chef to cook hamburgers at a diner, a massive overqualification that suggested NBC was pulling out all the stops to make The Partners feel like a prestige production. The theme music Schifrin created for The Partners accompanied the closing credits and occasionally popped up during the show itself, bringing his signature jazz-influenced style to a comedy that probably didn't deserve such high-quality musical treatment. Fans of Schifrin's work who managed to catch The Partners during its brief run were treated to another example of his brilliance, even if the show surrounding that music couldn't live up to the level of artistry he brought to the project. Fact 11. Batgirl made a guest appearance. Yvonne Craig, who had become famous for playing Barbara Gordon/Batgirl in the 1966 Batman television series, brought some superhero star power to The Partners by appearing in not just one, but 2 different episodes during the show's single-season run. Craig first showed up in the very first episode, the pilot titled Here Come the Fuzz, playing a character named Jessica Allen, alongside other guest stars like Joey Foreman and Art Matrano, helping to launch the series with a recognizable face that audiences would remember from her time fighting crime alongside the Caped Crusader. But her most memorable appearance came later in the season during an episode called True or False that aired on August 11, 1972, where she got to show off her acting range by playing dual roles as identical twin sisters named Michelle and Denise, who were pulling off jewelry heists. The plot involved these twin jewel thieves who would steal from different jewelry stores while the other twin provided an alibi, creating a classic mystery scenario where detectives Crook and Robinson would catch one of the women red-handed but could never find the stolen jewelry on her because her twin sister had already taken it. Craig was perfect for this kind of episode because she had the acting chops to make both characters feel distinct despite being twins. And her experience doing physical comedy and action scenes on Batman made her a natural fit for a show that was trying to blend crime fighting with laughs. Fact 12. Dragnet's Jack Webb had a cameo. One of the most ironic and amusing guest appearances on The Partners came when Jack Webb, the legendary creator and star of Dragnet, who had essentially defined the straight-faced, by-the-book police procedural genre on television, showed up to make a cameo in a show that was basically mocking everything his serious cop dramas stood for. Webb appeared in an episode called North is Now South that aired on December 18, 1971, playing a character named Commissioner Norton in what was one of his rare guest spots on another network series during that period. The timing of Webb's appearance was particularly interesting because he was incredibly busy at that exact moment creating and producing his own shows for NBC, including the police drama The DA and the Treasury agent series O'Hara, U.S. Treasury, both of which were struggling in the ratings and would be canceled after short runs. Webb was also in the early stages of developing Emergency, the medical drama about paramedics and firefighters that would ironically end up replacing The Partners on NBC's schedule just a few weeks after his guest appearance aired. Having the man who made police work look serious and dignified appear on a comedy where bumbling detectives solve crimes by accident must have seemed like a clever bit of meta-casting to the producers, bringing together two completely opposite approaches to law enforcement storytelling in a single episode that highlighted just how far the partners had strayed from the realistic police work that Webb had spent his entire career portraying. Fact 13. Emergency rose from its ashes. The partners' spectacular failure turned out to be a blessing in disguise for NBC because when the network pulled the plug on the show after its January 8, 1972 broadcast, they replaced it with a medical drama called Emergency. That would become one of the biggest hits of the entire decade. Emergency debuted as a mid-season replacement on January 15, 1972, just 1 week after the partners disappeared from the schedule, taking over the same Saturday nighttime slot along with another failed sitcom called The Good Life that NBC had also canceled. The show focused on paramedics and firefighters working for the Los Angeles County Fire Department, starring Randolph Mantooth and Kevin Tighe as the two main paramedics who formed Squad 51, responding to emergencies and saving lives in a format that mixed action, drama, and medical procedures. Emergency was created by Jack Webb and Robert Senator, the IO's same team behind Dragnet and Adam 12, and it ended up running for 6 full seasons until 1977, producing 122 episodes plus several television movies that aired in 1978 and 79. But the show's impact went far beyond just being a ratings success, because Emergency is credited with helping to revolutionize emergency medical services across the entire United States by showing Americans what paramedics could do and inspiring thousands of young people to enter the field, with many states passing laws to establish paramedic programs after seeing how effective they were on the show. Fact 14. The Lost TV Movie. Nobody saw Universal Studios wasn't ready to completely give up on the partners even after NBC canceled the show. So they attempted to salvage something from the wreckage by taking multiple episodes and editing them together into a feature-length television movie called Confessions of a Top Crime Buster that supposedly ran about 90 minutes long. This was a common practice in the 1970s when studios wanted to squeeze a bit more profit out of failed television series, essentially repackaging existing content as a movie by stringing episodes together with minimal editing, and maybe adding some new connecting material to make the whole thing flow better. The strange thing about this particular TV movie is that it never actually aired on any of the major networks like NBC, CBS, or ABC, which was unusual because most of these cobbled-together television movies would at least get one broadcast as a time filler during the summer months when networks needed cheap programming. Instead, Confessions of a Top Crime Buster went straight to local syndication, where individual television stations could buy it and air it whenever they had empty time slots to fill, making it what some television historians have affectionately called a bargain basement bonanza, referring to the low-quality, cheap programming that stations would purchase just to have something on the air. Nobody seems to know exactly which episodes were used to create the movie or when it first aired in syndication, and very few people ever saw it because it wasn't promoted or treated as any kind of special event. Fact 15, it ranked 66th out of 78 shows. The Partners went from being the most anticipated new show of the 1971 fall season to becoming one of the biggest flops in NBC's history, finishing the year ranked 66th out of 78 shows with an average rating of just 12.5, which meant that less than 13% of all households with televisions were bothering to tune in each week. This catastrophic failure was made even more embarrassing by the fact that NBC had invested heavily in the show based on those incredible test audience results and predictions from advertising agencies that it would be a breakout hit, only to watch it get absolutely demolished in the ratings by CBS's All in the Family from the very first week it aired. The network didn't even give the show a full season to find its audience or improve its numbers, pulling the plug after just 15 episodes had aired by January 8, 1972, leaving 5 completed episodes sitting on the shelf with no scheduled air dates. NBC eventually decided to burn off those remaining episodes during the summer of 1972, airing them on Friday nights at 8 p.m. as a replacement for Sanford & Son during its summer hiatus, with the final episode titled The 217 in 402, airing on September 8, 1972, almost exactly 1 year after the series had premiered, with such high hopes and expectations that now seemed laughably optimistic in hindsight.